Today we're going to shoot out 3 very hyped boutique overdrive pedals. The Mud Killer, the new Jeff Loomis Devil's Triad pedal, and the Pepers Dirty Tree. Let's get started. Let's get right into it. So for today's video, I'm going to be using my EVH EL34 100, and I'll be using the green and red channels for this video. Here's a picture of the settings that I'm using on the EL34 100. Now here's a picture of all 3 pedals set up the way I have them right now. Now I'm going to change those settings as and if needed for the video as we go. And when I do make changes, I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing and why I'm making those changes. And before we get started, basically what I do here is do a lot of dial-ins and shootouts of high quality, high gain amplifiers and some affordable amplifiers as well. I also do comparisons, dial-ins, and shootouts of pedals and digital platforms. So if you like what I do here, feel free to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I either go live or come out with new episodes. And there's also an affiliate link to Motor City Guitar in the description below. So if you want to buy yourself something cool, go ahead and click that link and get an awesome price on a great piece of gear. Motor City Guitar ships anywhere in the continental US, and if you buy outside of the state of Michigan, you don't pay any sales tax. And feel free to support me on Patreon as well. There's a link provided below. So if you really want to know what an overdrive pedal is doing with your amplifier, the best thing you can do is use it through your clean channel first. And especially if you want to shoot out a couple overdrives, because when you do this, you can really hear and feel what that pedal's doing regarding how much push it's giving the front end of the amplifier. And you can clearly hear the different frequencies that the pedal is boosting as well. So what we're going to do is do something that I've never seen on YouTube anyways, is compare these overdrives first through the clean channel of the EL34 100 now. So pay attention to this section of the screen here. Whatever pedal you see appear there is the one that I'm using. I have them all set up in kind of a neutral setting. In other words, the gain's all the way down, tone's in the middle, and I have the level all the way up, which is pretty much how we set up all of our pedals. And the Pepers Dirty Tree is in DT mode. So the only knob that's activated in that mode is the level knob. I'm just going to briefly play something on the clean channel so that you can hear how clean it is, and then I'll engage the pedal, and then from then on you'll just hear the pedals engage the entire time on the clean channel. So the first thing that I noticed right away was I'm getting a lot of push as far as volume's concerned out of the Devil's Triad pedal and the Dirty Tree. And I'm getting a really nice frequency boost out of the Dirty Tree. It's boosting some high mids or something like that. I'm not going to sit here like some channels and pretend I know what frequencies it's pushing. All I can think of is pushing some high mids somewhere, and it's very obvious when you put the the riffs up against each other. Go back and listen and double check that. You could definitely hear it's pushing some high mids or something like that. And with the Mud Killer, so far I'm getting a pretty even keeled kind of sound out of it, and it seems to have a little less push than the other 2 pedals. Let's do that riff again and double check. Yeah, there's a definite difference between the Mud Killer and the 2 other pedals regarding how many dBs it's shoving into the front of the amplifier. Now, one thing I noticed too, and if you listen carefully with the Dirty Tree, is you'll hear some clipping. So it seems like the Dirty Tree has even more headroom regarding how many dBs it's shoving into the front of the amplifier. And I noticed that when I first tried this pedal out, I noticed some clipping in the amplifier when I had the level turned all the way up on that pedal, which means it just has more headroom. So what I'm going to do now is turn that down to 3 o'clock, because that is, in my opinion, the sweet spot on that pedal. Otherwise, I get a lot of clipping. So let's even the playing field by adjusting the Dirty Tree accordingly. so I don't get a bunch of clipping. And the clipping happens no matter if I'm on a clean channel or a high gain channel. And owners of the Dirty Tree pedal can attest to that as well. Chime in here if you want. Now that's not a bad thing, it's just something I noticed, and it's easily fixed. Turn the level down to 3 o'clock, and it's perfect. All right, now that I've adjusted the level on the Dirty Tree, let's do some riffs on the clean channel again and see how they all compare to each other now. So I'm not getting any more clipping out of the Dirty Tree pedal, so that solved that problem. Yeah, it's very apparent that it's a brighter pedal, and the frequencies that Tony Pepers chose to boost in this pedal are really nice, especially when you have a high gain amplifier. It adds a really nice snarl and aggression to the amp. And don't worry, we'll get to the high gain channel in a second here. But before we do that, let's make some adjustments on the Mud Killer pedal and see if we can maybe boost a little more of the high frequencies. And all you got to do is just turn the tone knob up. And let's do that now and balance that out with the other pedals. And I have the volume all the way up on the pedal, so I can't have any more push. So let's see if we can, get some little more higher frequencies out of it and see how that translates when we switch over to the high gain channel. The Mud Killer is definitely a little brighter now, but it's still, not as high volume output as the other two. Let's do one more experiment before we move on to the high gain channel. What I'm going to do is just play like, big chords like this, just so you can hear a little more of those frequencies jumping out when I'm playing chords like that on the clean channel. Again, the Mud Killer seems to be the most even-keeled pedal in this comparison. The other two definitely have some unique characteristics about them. I still think that all three of these pedals are great, so I'm not choosing any winners here. I'm just pointing out what I'm noticing. Now let's switch over to the red channel and see what we have with the pedals in these settings. The first thing I'm going to do in this segment is play a riff on the amplifier with no overdrive. And while I'm playing the riff, I'll engage each one of these pedals to show what effect they have on the amplifier as I engage them. All right, in these settings, I found that the Dirty Tree was a little much, okay, with the level at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to back the level down on the Dirty Tree a little bit because this amp is nasty as hell in the red channel especially. So we're going to go ahead and let's back it down to 12 noon and see if that works. You know what, I'm going to start with it at 3 o'clock and I'll back it down and find the sweet spot as I'm playing. Man, that is nasty. That is so nasty. Let me do this. Let me switch to the TC side of the pedal and see if I can mellow it out. The thing is, again, like the EVH Stealth amplifiers on the red channel are just freaking nasty. So let me make some adjustments here. I'm going to switch over to the TC side on the Dirty Tree and see what happens. That totally fixed it. So that's what's nice about the Dirty Tree pedal is if you have amps that really need that nice raspy kind of aggression that that pedal offers on the DT side, you got it. But if you have an amplifier like what I'm dealing with right now at the red channel on the EL34, it's too much for that. So Tony put that switch in there so that you can just switch over to the TC side, mellow the pedal out a little bit, and now it's perfect for this amplifier. Now, I will say that if I adjusted the gain on the blue channel while I'm in the red channel and have the Dirty Tree on the DT side, I bet I can find a happy medium with that, because that Easter egg in the EL34 100 is awesome. It allows you to tame the gain structure a little bit or make it even more aggressive depending on which way you turn the gain knob on the blue channel while you're in the red channel. You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to switch the Dirty Tree back over to the DT side and adjust the amplifier to work with it better and see if I can make that happen. Just as I thought, fixed it. So I turned the gain all the way down on the blue channel while I'm on the red channel, and it took that rasp out of it for the most part, and then I feathered it back up to, I don't know, 8 o'clock, and it just gave me that perfect amount of aggression. So depending on your pickups and your taste and your adjustments on your pedal, that could work for you. So if you have the Dirty Tree and you find it a little too aggressive on the DT side on the red channel of this amplifier, adjust the gain on the blue channel and it fixes it. All right, so to keep everything equal, let's go ahead and set the gain back to, I'll put it to 11 o'clock on the blue channel on the EL34, and I'm going to keep the Pepers Dirty Tree over on the TC side so that, you know, it just sounds better with this amplifier with those settings, because those settings will work great with the other pedals. And again, that is a great feature on the Pepers Dirty Tree. So if one setting doesn't work, flip it over to the other side and you got freaking magic. So again, we're in the TC mode on the Pepers Dirty Tree from here on out. So now that we have the Pepers Dirty Tree dialed in perfectly with the EL34, let's go ahead and do the same thing with the other two pedals. And after I get them dialed in, I'll show you the settings that I use to make that happen. Let's start with the Devil's Triad pedal. Alright, so it was kind of the same thing with the Devil's Triad pedal. I had the treble or the tone knob all the way up to top dead center, and lowering it down a little bit to, I don't know, between 9 and 10 o'clock, it took that high-end sizzly kind of rasp off just enough to give it that really guttural kind of nasty snarl. And I feel like these are the perfect settings with this pedal and this channel on the amplifier. So basically I have the gain all the way off, level all the way up, and the tone knob is between 9 and 10 o'clock. Let's move on to the Mud Killer now. Okay, so what I did with that pedal is I backed the tone knob down to like 1 o'clock. Everything else is the same. Gains all the way down, levels all the way up, and I have the fat skinny knob right in the center. So I just feel like those are the perfect settings right now with this amplifier and this channel as well. So now that we have all these pedals dialed in to what at least I think are the optimum settings for this channel, let's go ahead and just play a riff and switch between them and see how they compare. Man, I have to admit, playing these side by side is very telling. I mean, I noticed a really big difference between all three of these pedals, especially between the Mud Killer and the other two. I feel like the Mud Killer is actually a mellower pedal when it comes to push and aggression when you compare it to the Dirty Tree and the Devil's Triad. Both the Pepers Dirty Tree and the Devil's Triad had a bigger push into the front of the amplifier, and there's more aggression associated with these pedals as well. They're pushing some frequencies in the high mids that are just adding that really nice texture and aggressiveness to the top end of the amplifier. And the way that they are kind of manipulating and shaping the gain structure on the amplifier is really cool. Now the Mud Killer is still, I think, a great contender and an awesome pedal, and I'm definitely glad I own one and going to keep it on my pedal board. So like I said, this is pretty telling. So if I have an amplifier that has a ton of aggression in it, and I just need a pedal to kind of push it a little bit and maintain the type of gain structure that the amplifier has, maybe I'll go for the Mud Killer, because I just want that really nice push and maintain the overall integrity of the tone of the amplifier without changing it too much. Now that being said, you can change the tone of the amplifier a little bit with the Mud Killer by adjusting the tone knob and just turning it up a little bit. It does add a little more sizzle or aggression to the top end of the amplifier. But aside from that, it's just a little more even keeled when you compare it to the Pepers Dirty Tree and the Devil's Triad. So if you have an amplifier that's requiring a little more bite, a little more aggressive attack, and you want more push, I would highly recommend the Dirty Tree and the Devil's Triad. Now I also have to add, with the Devil's Triad, you also have a separate boost that you can stack on top of the drive section of that pedal, and it actually kind of gives you a more bigger sound, a little more low end, and a little more fullness, so that when you're doing solos and stuff like that, it just really enhances the feel and makes you feel like you can just play anything. I mean, I'm serious. There's a lot of encouragement that comes from that pedal with that feature. And the nice thing about it too is there's a knob associated with that switch, so you can adjust how much boost you want. And it gives you up to 20 decibels of boost, and I have it at like 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, and it's plenty for me. And let's go back to the clean channel, and I'll show you what that feature does right now, and you'll get a really good idea what it does. So bear in mind, the drive section of the Devil's Triad is not engaged right now. I'm just using the boost section, and I have the knob associated with the boost at around 10 or 11 o'clock, and you're going to hear a big difference as soon as I kick that in. So there's a really big difference between the boost section of this pedal and the drive section. In fact, let me show you that now while we're on the clean channel. I'll start with the drive, and then I'll turn that off and engage the boost. So you heard a huge difference there, didn't you? As soon as I engaged the drive, you heard a little more attack and bite and you know, response to the amplifier. And as soon as I engaged the boost, you heard a real big fullness and a lot of low end coming into the amplifier. So they are two very different things, and when you stack them, especially with solos, like I said earlier, man, it's amazing. The feel and response is like nothing you've ever played before. Well, that about sums it up for this video. I hope you guys got something out of it, and I hope that me doing this on the clean channels for you really showed you the different things that these pedals have to offer and how different they are from each other. And as you notice, as soon as I engaged the red channel on this amplifier, I had to make some pretty substantial changes to each one of these pedals so that I can get the best tone and feel possible out of the amp. Well, I hope this helped you choose the best pedal that works for you. Again, I think all three of these pedals are amazing, and they can pretty much be welded to my pedal board because I'm never getting rid of any one of these. They're freaking killer. So depending on the amp and what I'm in the mood for that day, I could use any one of these pedals. But I was quite surprised at how much different they were, especially when it came to the frequencies that they boosted and how many dBs they were shoving into the front of the amplifier. I thought these were going to be a lot closer than they actually were. So again, the Pepers Dirty Tree and the Devil's Triad were very close as far as how much they were pushing the front of the amplifier regarding dBs, and the Mud Killer was quite a bit different. I mean, it wasn't bad, but there was definitely a noticeable difference. And all this time I've been using the Mud Killer. I didn't realize that, but now that I know, it's like one of those things that it's like hard to unknow that now, you know, but I still feel like it makes amps feel amazing every time I plug into it. So like I said, I'll use it. I don't care. I think they're all really good. Well, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And make sure that you subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified every time I come out with new episodes. And to all my subscribers and Patreon supporters, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. I got a lot of great stuff coming up for you guys. I'll see you on the next one.